The Last of Us 2 is out and many people are now getting near the end of the game, if they haven't already finished. Many fans have been left amazed at where the story went. We all had theories, we all thought we knew what was coming. There were even tons of leaks, and yet there was still plenty to amaze, shock, and astound us when it came to Naughty Dog's The Last of Us Part 2. Welcome back, my fellow gamers. This is Top 10 Gaming and I'm your host Amanda McKnight. Today we'll be taking a closer look at some of the more surprising moments in The Last of Us sequel as we count down the top 10 things we got wrong in The Last of Us Part 2. We thought we knew, but it turns out we didn't. For those who haven't, be sure to click that subscribe and ring our bell before we begin, because it's good for you. A big spoiler warning before you proceed any further, as we are talking about everything The Last of Us 2, and I mean everything, so there will be spoilers galore ahead for those who have yet to play the game. And we will even be touching on the ending, so spoilers. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So yes. Alright, now that you've been warned, let's get counting. Number 10. Critical acclaim. Fans of The Last of Us 2 were likely expecting the game to be amazing, or at least kinda hoping that it would be, but given all the leaks and spoilers and all the drama surrounding The Last of Us 2 release, add in the global pandemic, plus the review embargo, and closer to release, many fans weren't so sure if the game was going to be as great as they had hoped. Some fans were very worried about how the game would be received, and others were ready to throw in that towel, certain the game was doomed to fail. And yet when the game was released, it ended up taking its place as the best reviewed PS4 exclusive game of this generation. The only two PS4 titles above it being GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption, with both of those titles sitting at 97 on Metacritic and Last of Us 2 sitting at 96. Woo! While some may not have expected it, the reviews are in. Number 9. Joel's brutal death. Some people may have expected a death in The Last of Us 2. After all, the first game wasn't light and fluffy at all. It was brutal and real. In the original Last of 2, within the first third of that game, you as Joel lose your companion Tess, whom you appeared to be very close with. What's more, Tess seemed like a badass and a survivor, so it wasn't something that you likely expected to happen to her. Most people went into The Last of Us 2 with a cloud of doom hanging over their head, knowing it was very well possible that we could lose Joel or Ellie, or who knows, maybe even both. But what people were likely surprised by was how soon we'd lose Joel and how graphic his end ended up being. He doesn't just get shot or bit, he gets beaten to death, smashed in the head repeatedly with a golf club. The way he went is likely what shocked so many people when it came to the direction The Last of Us 2 decided to go in regards to his death. Number 8. Flashbacks. Trailers made it feel as though Joel was going to play a fairly sizable part in the game, and that in some ways we'd get a throwback to the feels of the times where Joel and Ellie were working together in the first game. We obviously knew that Joel wouldn't be Ellie's ally for most of the game, but we saw him in the trailer and we knew that allies were obviously a big part of the game, so we figured he'd be there at some point. What we didn't expect was that those moments that we got would be so bittersweet due to Joel's graphic death at the hands of Abbey. Due to Joel dying near the beginning of the game, pretty much all of the moments we get with Joel are through Ellie's flashbacks. So what's nice is we still get some time with him, but what's bittersweet is it really only reminds us of the pain that Ellie feels, and that we feel of losing him. Number 7. The pregnancy. Based on the trailer, people were expecting that Ellie might be forging a romantic relationship with a new friend, and those who played The Last of Us DLC were likely not surprised to find out that it would be with a woman. Enter Dina. Dina, as we find out in the game, surprises Ellie a bit when she kisses her. The two like each other, but we start the game with the kiss that we saw in the trailers already having happened, and Ellie talking about the kiss to Dina's ex-boyfriend, Jesse. Based on assumptions before playing The Last of Us 2 of Ellie's potential girlfriend also being a lesbian, Dina's pregnancy reveal might have been something that you weren't anticipating. But once you find out a bit more about her past relationship with Jesse, this likely makes more sense. But still, it's pretty unexpected. I wasn't expecting anyone to get pregnant in this game. Even with the knowledge of that past relationship, it likely wasn't news that any of us players were expecting to happen in that game. I mean, it's a bleak reality. It's not a great time to raise children in a zombie post-apocalypse, but here we are. Number 6. The violence. The Last of Us was a pretty bleak and dark game. Right off the bat, as Joel, you lose your daughter Sarah. Your whole world is turned upside down with the cordyceps infection, turning everyone into zombies. Death becomes a big part of everyday life in the post-apocalyptic zombie world that you as a player are thrown into. But despite all this darkness, you find light. Joel and Ellie end up on a journey together and in one another find companionship, forging a father-daughter-like bond. There is hope. In The Last of Us 2, everything gets a lot more graphic and at times feels a lot more bleak than the first game, which we probably didn't think was possible, but here we are. The violence is dialed up to 11 in a way that many have commented has made them need to take a break from the game, and has made some people actually need to quit playing it entirely. The violence definitely serves a purpose in regards to the kind of story Naughty Dog wanted to tell, but I don't think anyone was expecting it to be as graphic or as intense as it is. Number 5. The numbness. With everything, there are two sides. The Last of Us 2, it seems, to most, is an experience to play. Neil Druckmann promised us it wouldn't be fun, but it would be engaging. While at times it definitely is engaging, exciting, and often feels quite meaningful in terms of its message, there are times when the violence becomes oversaturated. After all, we're not talking about another 10-hour game like the original Last of Us, we're talking about a 30-hour playtime with the sequel. And it is for this reason that some feel like the violence that was promised to shock eventually led to a numbness that many were surprised by. There's just so much violence that it becomes oversaturated, working against what Naughty Dog it seems was trying to do with this violence. Number 4. All Alone. We were teased at having many allies throughout the game who would be switching out and joining Ellie on her journey. One thing that I think a lot of fans were surprised by was that these weren't as constant as you'd expect. You do have companions for a good amount of the game, but there are times when Ellie is alone. What's more frightening is at the end of the game it is her loneliness that Ellie is forced to face. Or should I say her fear of loneliness. In the first game, loneliness is Ellie's answer when asked about her greatest fears, after jokingly answering scorpions. And by the end of her journey, she in a way sacrifices the relationships that she's developed in order to set out once more for revenge, the revenge that keeps her awake at night. While the end of the first game was hopeful and, well, somewhat happy, there is no happy ending for Ellie this time around. She even loses part of her connection to Joel when she loses 2 of her fingers at the end of the game, as it affects her guitar playing. It's really hard to play guitar without your 2 left fingers. You can try it, it's hard. Number 3. Abby. While we knew Abby's character was going to be showing up, we did see her in the trailer after all, what players were caught off guard by was her connection to Joel and Ellie's story. When we first meet her, we have no idea who she is or really why she's after Joel, why she's seeking revenge, but as the story unfolds, we find out that when Joel decided to save Ellie and, well, kind of doom humanity, he really messed up Abby's life. She was the daughter of the doctor that you killed in the first game who was set to do the operation on Ellie that would kill Ellie but save humanity. When you mess with the Fireflies in the first game as Joel, you also mess up Abby's life. This revelation later in the game I think caught a lot of people by surprise. We may have suspected Joel's secret and his lies to Ellie would be exposed, but I don't think anyone expected the revenge plot to originally start because of another revenge plot. Revenge plots on revenge plots. Number 2. Ellie's tunnel vision. It makes sense that Ellie is out for revenge. I mean, she just lost Joel and Joel was kind of her whole world. But what caught a lot of people by surprise is how much Ellie has grown up and changed, and how much she was willing to do and sacrifice to guarantee her revenge. What's more is while Abby is by no means the hero of this story, neither is Ellie. She does terrible things, kills tons of seemingly innocent people to get what she wants. And when she's provided an opportunity to rise above her tunnel-visioned revenge agenda, she often doesn't, clinging on to her revenge till almost the very end of the game, and even then she's like just barely letting it go. Many people were surprised by how blind Ellie's hatred of Abby made her. Weird that there's no point where she realizes through this entire story until the end that maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe she sacrificed too much. Number 1. You as the antagonist. A new character is introduced in this game, one that you are forced to play as, although it doesn't feel so forced when you start out. If you've played, or you've simply been diving into all the spoilers I guess, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about Abby. There are times when you go from playing as Ellie to Abby, who we find out is looking for Joel. In fact, through controlling her, we actually help her find him, which makes what comes next so hard to watch. Abby is the one who kills Joel, and because you are the one to help guide her to him while playing as her character, you can't help feeling somewhat responsible for Joel's death as the player. While this feels earth-shattering, jarring, and is unexpected, the reason that it seems Naughty Dog chose to do this is because of the exploration of their theme for the game: revenge. Abbey is out for revenge, and so is Ellie. In a way, the brutality of the game only seeks to highlight how seeking revenge, in a sense, can warp someone with even the best of intentions into a monster, or with even the best justifications. Is revenge ever truly justified? It forces us to consider this. It forces us to consider the cycle of revenge and what its worth is. Thank you so much for watching. What were some of the most shocking moments that you experienced during The Last of Us 2? After fully finishing the game, what are your thoughts? Did you love it? Were you lukewarm on it? Did you dislike it? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!